you. Blair. I am your guest speaker tonight. I guess you figured that out already. I'm a participant in the New Direction program just like you, and every so often Janet asks if I'll come and just kind of share my experiences with you, and I'm happy to do that. I think it's important that we learn from each other, so I think it's helpful to have that. So here I am tonight. And so tonight's topic is getting back on track. And that is a topic I was glad when Janet asked me if I would be willing to talk about that. That's something that's close to my heart. It's certainly something I have plenty of experience with. I have been on the struggle bus. It stops at my house frequently. As a matter of fact, this past year, I feel like I've been on a whole world tour with it. And so I definitely have some experience in this area and some things that hopefully will be helpful to you tonight as I share them. Before I go on though, I want to tell you just a tiny bit about who I am and who I'm not, so we're clear with each other. I am not a doctor or a nutritionist or a nurse or a therapist or a counselor, but I am a former teacher and a writer and someone who brings a lot of experience to the table. I've been where you are. When I started New Direction, it was in 2017, April of 2017. This is my lovely befores. And I weighed in on that first day at 317.5 pounds. And I started on VLCD and I lost 150 pounds total, so nearly half of my starting body weight. So I have learned a few things along the way, and I'm happy to share that with you tonight. So, hi, good, see you.
Say, I'm so sorry, thank you.
No, not a problem. So as we get into the topic tonight, there's a couple of things that I hope you'll take away with you. And being a former teacher, I had to write them on the board. The first is that relapse is a part of recovery. And the second is that today is not yesterday. I have a few friends who've gone through either drug rehab or alcohol rehab successfully, thank God. And they will tell you to a person that relapse is a part of recovery. It's the rare person, if any, who can overcome an addictive behavior on the first try. And I can prove that to you. If this is your first diet, raise your hand. Seriously, first one all day. God bless you. Hardly ever do you see that, because generally by the time you get to this program or ones like this, I love New Direction. It has been great for me, but generally this is not the place you come for a first attempt. Usually you've got many attempts in your past, probably going back years. And so by the time you get to here, it kind of feels like a last-ditch effort. So most of you are quite familiar with relapse. And so let me define for you what I mean by relapse. For me, relapse is any time that you are not doing what you know you should be doing to be healthy. And that's a pretty broad definition. And it can go anything from like an oops relapse, where it's just a momentary thing, to what I would call an relapse, where you're completely off track, and all that stuff in between. And we could call those all different names, but just for tonight, to make ease of discussion, I'm going to lump them all together as relapse. So I used to look at my relapses as failures, as dozens, if not hundreds, of failures. But as I've begun to understand that relapse is a part of recovery, if that's true, then the relapse must be there for a purpose. And the purpose is not to make me feel like a failure. So what's it there for? Why can't I just go on a diet one time, get to my goal weight, and stay there? Why? Well, that answer is a little complicated. Hello. When I started New Direction, I was coming in on the heels of a very, very long period of relapse. And I had been off the reservation for quite some time. And even though this was a very difficult period of time, I did learn quite a few things. It wasn't wasted time. And probably the biggest thing that I learned is that I'm not just a physical body. I'm not just skin and bones and some flab. There's some more to me than that. I also have this emotional nature and a spiritual nature. And while that may on one sense feel like, well, duh, everybody knows that, I kind of knew that, but how I knew it was I considered these as three independent things of me. What I didn't realize was how enmeshed they are and that they work in concert together. So when something happens to me in one category of me, it has a direct effect on the other parts of me. I didn't get that before, but I did learn that through this period of time. So why can't I go on a diet once and then just hit my goal weight and stay there? Because I'm a complicated being, and so are you. So there's not one easy answer to this, but there are some answers. It just takes a little work to get to them. So if I were to diagram for you how I wished my weight loss journey went versus how it actually went, it would look something like this. This would be my wish list. Like, here's my starting weight. I would lose weight consistently, hit my goal weight, yay! Maintain forever.
Yay.
That's my wish. Here's reality. Here's my weight. Oh, what is that? Oh, what is that? Oh. New direction. Lose weight. Hit my goal weight. Yay. Maintenance. Ah, oops. Does that look familiar to anybody else? Can you relate?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Now, like I said, when I used to look at my periods of relapse, and we'll just take these as when it goes up to a peak, that's a high weight, and this is when I'm losing weight. On the other side of that, I used to look at these times as times of failure, but I don't see them that way anymore. When I look at it now I see the purpose of relapse. It's there to teach me something about myself, something I'm going to need to know so that I can become the healthy person that I want to be. So let's pick a spot. I'll give you an example. Let's say, let's go with this one. We'll say this is 1981. I'm a year out of college. I had moved back home, looking for a job, and my parents are getting a divorce. And this has sent shockwaves throughout my entire extended family. No one saw this coming, including me. And for the next 5 years, I watched my mom get up, go to work, come home, fall asleep on the couch, get up the next day, go to work, come home, fall asleep on the couch. That's all she could do. And as a result of that, I became the de facto head of household. I wasn't quite prepared for that, and it was really stressful. The other thing I wasn't prepared for was to see my mom start to become this person that I didn't recognize. And so I took this little vow and I said, I will never let that happen to me. And what I meant by that was I will never allow my emotions to control me in such a way that it's going to wreak havoc on my life. And I kind of took that to the extreme where I thought emotions are not a good thing. You know, I could do happy and I could do angry, but anything else I'm like, I don't have time for that. And so since emotions don't really like to be controlled in that way, they don't let you pick which one they're going to be today, they just kind of happen, I needed a way to restrict them, or at least to contain them. So guess what I did?
Yeah.
Started eating. Exactly. And that was not the first time I ever used food in an inappropriate way, but it took it to a whole new level. And when I look back on that now, the thing that I learned about this is that emotions are a part of who I am. And while I don't have to let them control me, I don't have to be afraid of them either, or I don't have to pretend they don't exist. I can work with them. That is a huge piece of information that I needed, that I'm not sure I would have gotten without that relapse, and I certainly wouldn't have gotten it if I had looked at it. Now, on the opposite side of this are these other things. These are times when I'm doing it great. And I used to never look at those times. I always thought they were accidental. But I don't feel that way now. This is like the reverse of relapse. We'll call this success. And so now when I see this, I go, okay, well, if I could learn something from the relapse, I bet I can learn something from my successes too. And so what I do now is I take time to look at them. So let's pick another one. We'll go with this one. It's 2017. and we'll go with May of 2017. I've been on New Direction for a whole month. And my first holiday is coming up. It's Memorial Day weekend. And I have to decide what I'm gonna do. And I decide, since I'm on VLCD, that I'm gonna stick with the program strictly. I'm gonna just continue to have products all the way through the weekend. I'm not gonna budge from that. And I get through the weekend great. I continue to lose weight. It was wonderful. And when the next holiday came up, I went, hey, what did I do the last time? Because that worked. And I repeated what I had done. And for the next one and the next one, and for like the next 100 that came up, I continued to use that as a touchstone going forward. So there's purpose to all of this. Relapse is part of recovery. It's going to happen. And I don't say that to scare you or discourage you. I say that to prepare you. So don't be surprised when it happens. Don't be disappointed or frustrated or angry with yourself. It just means that you're human and that there's something there for you to learn. So take the time to look at it and learn from it. Sometimes it's hard to see our own stuff, and you may need to get some outside help. I know I did. I went to a counselor for a while, and she helped me work through a lot of this. And honestly, without her asking me the right questions, I'm not sure I would have understood what I was actually looking at and going through. So let's move on to today is not yesterday. Excuse me. I have a friend who likes to play golf. I don't know why, but she does. And she has played on the same golf course for several years. And we were talking the other day, and she was telling me about a new golf instructor that she has and was very excited about that. And she said, you know, it's an odd thing. The golf course is different every time I play. And I thought, well, I don't know anything about golf, but I said, what do? Move the holes? And she's like, no, it's not that. If I go and it's humid out, the grass lays a little differently. Or if it's hot out, the ball flies differently. Or if it's a little misty or a little windy, that affects my game too. Hi, come on in.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. And she said, so what I've learned is that I can't approach my golf game the same way today as I did yesterday, because today is not yesterday. And when she said that, I literally went, wait a minute. And like, I gotta whip out my phone. I gotta write this down. Today is not yesterday. Because what that did was encapsulate for me what I had been learning over the past several months. I just didn't have a catchy little phrase to go with it. So one more thing I want to let you in on about me is that I have had 5 surgeries in the past year, in about a 10-month period. When you carry around an extra full-grown adult with you for decades, it does a number on your skin, and it did a number on mine. I was constantly tucking in skin here and there, and I'd sit down, I'm like, what the heck am I sitting on? Oh, it's me. You know, my skin would just kind of fold over, and I'm like, can't live like this. And so last June, I decided to go on what I called my skin restoration program, and I had been doing a lot of research. It's okay. Hello, you want me to talk to them? No. Anyway, so I had done a lot of research about skin reduction and found a great surgeon actually right here in Paoli. And when we were talking about it, I said, all right, doc, here's the thing. I don't want to prolong this. You know, I'm the kind of person, if there's something unpleasant, I just assume get it over with. So I said, I'd like to do this as shortly as possible. And he was like, okay, that's fine, as long as we take the appropriate amount of time in between so we make sure you're okay and that you don't have any complications. We can probably do this in the time frame you're looking at. Great. Now, if you're thinking about surgery, I'm happy to talk to you about that, but let me just say now that I don't recommend having so many surgeries in such a short period of time. I chose to do that because, like I said, I'm that type of person, and honestly, knowing what I know now, if I were to make that decision again, I'd do it exactly the same way. But it was rough. And even though I had done a lot of research, there were a few things that I hadn't counted on. One was the effect that anesthesia was going to have on me, especially the buildup over several operations. And the second was how drained I would be by the end. And I jokingly refer to my anesthesia issues as mad cow. It started around the 4th surgery, and by the end of the 5th, I had tremendous difficulty focusing. I had a hard time reading. I was getting lost all the time. I was having trouble coming up with words. It really was not good. And I was exhausted. And I mean exhausted on every level, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I was done. There was nothing left in my tanks. And this was rough because there was one more thing I hadn't anticipated. I gained weight. What? This after maintaining my weight for an entire year, I gained weight. Not only did I gain weight, I gained 25 pounds worth, thank you very much. I was not happy. So I spoke to the surgeon and every person on staff here in this program, and my primary care doctor, and my chiropractor, the guy at the deli, anybody I thought that could help me. I'm like, what's going on? And they all said the same thing. Relax, give it time. You need time to heal. But I didn't want to hear that because I knew that some of the weight that I gained was a direct result of the surgery. My body was hanging on to fluids and all kinds of stuff. I got that. But hi, come on in. I also knew that some of the weight I gained was because I was eating poorly. So I decided on my own that I was going to go back on LCD because eventually, I was exhausted and I had this kind of cloudy head. And eventually I came out of that and thought, I got to get control of this situation before it gets too far out of hand. So I'm like, I'm just going to hop right back on LCD and I'll get this weight off in no time. No, that is not what happened. Why? Because today is not yesterday. When I started New Direction, originally, I was in good shape, obviously not weight-wise. But I had energy, I was in a great place emotionally and spiritually, everything was good, I was ready to go. But following these surgeries, I had zero energy, I was borderline depressed, and spiritually I was dry. I could barely get myself to church on Sunday mornings, and that was about it. And I know you don't know me, but that is not me. My faith is what guides and directs me on a daily basis, and I am a go, go, go kind of person. So to be relegated to basically just being on the couch, not being able to think straight, just was not working for me. So I got really frustrated. I couldn't understand why I couldn't get back on the program. And even when I was doing it correctly, I was only losing 1/3 of a pound a week. And so I started to think, there's something wrong with me. Here we go again. I'm doomed. I'm going right back to where I started. But thankfully, those thoughts only lasted a little bit because I realized that today is not yesterday. My weight may have been up and I might have been tired and I might not have been able to do the physical things that I had been doing, but I was so much farther along than I was when I started. Today was not yesterday. I am not the same person who ate because she didn't want to deal with her emotions. I deal with them now. I'm not the same person who believed she'd never get to her goal weight because I got to my goal weight. I'm not the same person who believed she was doomed to fail. It was only a matter of time because I have had success and I know what to do to get to it again. Today is not yesterday. And while that's true for me, that's true for you guys too. So don't get locked into your yesterday trying to figure out your today. Look at where you are today. So how does this all fit together? How does knowing that relapse is a part of recovery and that today is not yesterday, how does that help you with getting back on track? So let's take a look at that. So recently I had an oops moment. I was in New York taking the subway from Penn Station to Soho. And I do this frequently, I'm in New York frequently, and I pay quite close attention when I'm on the subway. I get a little nervous about it, so I make sure I know exactly how many stops I have and what's the one right before I have to get off. Well, I don't know what happened that day. I'm gonna blame it on Mad Cow, but somehow instead of Soho, I ended up in Brooklyn, a half an hour away. And it wasn't a big deal. I got off the subway, got back on one that was gonna take me in the right direction. Back to Soho I went, all was well. It just cost me some time. And sometimes we have similar oops moments when we're eating. I'm a former teacher, and one place that was always a challenge for me was the mailroom. I don't know what it is about that place, but it's like it's like a magnet for leftovers. So if somebody has an event the night before, you can bet that the next day there's going to be cakes and cookies and muffins and whatever out in that mailroom. So let's just say that one day I'm going to go there to pick up my mail. Like usual, I've got my hands full of stuff, and I go in and there's chocolate chip cookies on the counter, my favorite. And I grab my mail and I pick up a cookie, and out the door I go, and as I'm going back to class, I eat the cookie. I get back to my room and I go, what in the world did I just do? Mindless eating, something that I had done for hundreds of times in the past, but not something I wanted to be doing now. Oops. So what do? Well, in the old days, I would have called myself a few names, and then I would have said, well, forget it, no matter what, just move on, it's done. But now, because I know that relapse is a part of recovery, I know that happened for a reason, and I want to figure out what it is. I don't want to let, even though this is just a tiny moment, I don't want to let it slip by without looking into it and learning from it. So when I have a chance, I sit down and I think about what happened, and I go, okay, I was busy, I was distracted, I wasn't really thinking, and I grabbed the cookie out of habit. So what does this mean for the next time? Because there will always be the next time. I need a strategy. So I know first, okay, I need to pay attention, especially when I'm going to be around foods that I don't want to consume. And I know that mailroom is an obstacle course of foods that I don't want to consume. So I have to say to myself, all right, you're going to go in the room, pay attention, grab your mail, and get out as soon as possible. Or I have another option. I have coworkers in my room. I can ask one of them to go get my mail. I don't even have to go in that room. Boom, problem solved. When we have these little oops moments, no matter how small they are, we should take the time to figure out what happened and then plan for the next time so we can get ourselves quickly right back on the right train again. But sometimes the oops moments, they're a little bigger. So let's say I was invited to a neighbor's house for a cookout. And even though I'm on the program, I decided to go because I've learned here that these type of events are not about the food, they're about the people. And so I want to get to know my neighbors a little better, so I decided I'm going to go, but I'm going to bring my own products with me, so I'm prepared and I can stay on the program. So I get there, everything's going great. I brought along my 2 little peanut butter bars in my purse, I'm ready to go, and everything's fine. But then my friend fires up the grill and I start to smell those hamburgers. And I'm thinking, wait, I haven't had a burger in months. And that starts this internal debate with me because I'm thinking, gee, hamburgers are mostly protein, so maybe I can have a burger without a bun and that would be okay. And I continue to have this debate until the burgers are ready. And then the debate's over, I'm in line, and I get one. And then I'm looking at this lonely little bunless burger on my plate, and I think, it could use a friend. And I see that there's some potato salad nearby, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not having a bun, so maybe I can have a little potato salad just on the side. So I get a little scoop of that, and then I'm looking, thinking, gee, it could use some color. And before you know it, I'm loading up my plate, and I take a full plate back to my seat. I eat the whole thing. Eventually I get home, and later on that night when I come out of my food coma, I smack myself on the head and I say, what did I just do? I can't believe I blew it like that. Well, I might as well have dessert and then just start again tomorrow. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yes, I love everybody's like, mm-hmm. So what do I do then? This is a pretty big oops moment, and if I'm not careful, it could lead me to a place that I would rather not go. So again, I want to acknowledge that relapse is part of recovery, and I want to figure out what in the world happened. Well, it wasn't because I wasn't prepared, because I had 2 bars with me. So what was it? Well, it could have been a couple of things. Maybe I wasn't as prepared as I thought. Maybe I hadn't decided that no matter what, I was going to actually eat those bars. Maybe I just had them with me so I could be on the program unless something better came along. Or maybe there were other things that contributed to it, like I don't like being in a big crowd of people, even though I love New York. But in a social situation, I'm very uncomfortable in a crowd, especially if I don't know a lot of people. So maybe my anxiety level is raised. And maybe I just want to stay in the background, but if I pull out this bar, I know I'm going to call attention to myself, and all of a sudden I'm going to have to answer questions or have a conversation that I just as soon not have. Is this important information for me to discover about myself? You betcha. So now I have the information. Now what am I going to do next? So I have to figure out what to do. And what I used to do a billion times before in the past is to have dessert and then worry about it the next day. But I want to shake that up now and do something completely different. Why? Because today is not yesterday. I don't want to continually do the things that didn't work in the past. It's time to try something new. So instead of having dessert, I'm going to have some water. And if it's around dinner time, I'm not going to skip dinner. I don't know about you, but this is what I would tend to do in the past. If I overate at lunch, I would go, well, I'll just skip dinner and that'll make up for it. No, it won't. Skipping a 300 or 400 or 500 calorie dinner is not going to make up for the 2,000 calories I had at lunch. And it could even make the problem worse. So instead of doing that, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to have a product, even if I'm not hungry, which really goes against everything kind of what you're thinking, oh, I'm already stuffed, I shouldn't eat anymore. No, I'm going to have a product for a couple of reasons. One, because it's going to give my body the nutrition it needs. I'm going to drink that shake and my body's going to go, protein, I've been waiting for this all day. I've been loaded down with all these carbs, finally something I can use. But the second thing, and I think even more importantly, is that it's going to cue my mind that I am still on the program. That what happened was just a momentary lapse and I'm back where I need to be right away. And here's the best part. When I get up in the morning, I don't have to go, I gotta get back on the program. Because I'm already back. I had done it the night before. I just have to keep going now. What a difference maker that is. I got off at the wrong stop, but I got myself turned around and headed in the right direction again. It only cost me some time. That's good news. But let's say that oops wasn't momentary and it turned into one of those relapses. What do you do then? Well, that requires more than just hopping back on the right train. If you broke your leg, you wouldn't sign up to run a marathon the next day. You would allow yourself some time to heal, then you would do some training, and then finally you'd get into the race. When you have a significant relapse, when you've gained back some real weight, I would equate that to breaking your leg. And while the idea of jumping right back into whatever program you're on may seem appealing and that it should work, it's not always how it goes. Why? Because you need some time to heal. And I'll use me as an example again. I consider the time following the surgery as a relapse. I gained back what I consider a significant amount of weight. And as soon as I realized what was happening, I wanted to get into the program, but there was very little of me that was cooperating with that idea. And it turns out the main reason I was having so much trouble was because I was trying to do too much too soon. And just like everybody told me, I needed some time to heal. And not just heal physically. What I didn't realize is I also needed time to heal emotionally and spiritually as well. This really did a number on me. Sometimes life throws stuff at us that's difficult and we get beat up and we need some time to heal. And so how do you heal? Well, I can't answer that one for you. For some of us, it might mean going to counseling. For some, it might mean connecting with your spiritual side. For some of us, it might mean having a rest or going on vacation. For me, it was all of those things, plus allowing my body the time that it needed to recover. I'm still doing that. This is something you're going to have to look into for yourself. But I can give you one clue. It's tough to heal yourself by yourself. We weren't built that way, even if you think you are. If we were able to do that, we wouldn't need a program like this. We wouldn't need doctors or psychiatrists or counselors or pastors or family or friends, but we do need them. And so look for the people who are going to be able to help you and get the help that you need. So once you get yourself healed up and you're ready to go and you're ready to get started, I would say take a step. Now, generally, I'm an all-in kind of person, so I just want to jump right in and go back to it full force. But like I said, when I tried that, it did not work. And I was very frustrated by that. But one day I thought, all right, well, I know what I can't do. What can I do? What a great question. I didn't realize at the time what a great question that was, because it just, big paradigm shift right there. And so I thought about it. I thought, well, I think I can drink water. And I had gotten away from that. So that became my goal for the next day, just get the water in. And so the next day I tried it, and I didn't make it, but I got close. And I thought, all right, well, it's my goal for tomorrow, get the water in. And I didn't get it in again the second day, but I got closer. Third day, boom, made it. So I was ready to take off. No. I was like, all right, do it again and again. And I kept going like that, with that being my singular goal for quite a while. My object was, I want to get to the point where it's automatic. I'm not thinking about it. I just automatically get up in the morning, fill up my jug, and drink away. And I need a drink. And when I finally got to the point where I could do that, I thought, okay, great, let's add something else in. So at that point, I decided I would add a shake for breakfast. I did the same thing. That was my only goal. Drink the water, have the shake. That's it. I didn't care what I ate the rest of the day. I didn't care if I was exercising, nothing, just those two things. And when I could do that, and it was automatic, like, all right, time to add the next thing in. The next thing for me was trying to get my energy level back, because I was just wiped out. And so I decided the best thing for me to do was to walk on the treadmill. I have one in my basement. I'll walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes. And I thought that was absolutely ridiculous, because I had been walking the previous summer at 10 miles at a time on vacation in New York, and wherever I was, it was not a big deal for me to walk. So 5 minutes seemed ridiculous. But I thought, you know what? I want to set a goal that I know I can meet. And so that became my goal. So that next day I got up, did the 5 minutes. It was fine, no problem, great. Next day I thought, let's try 10. So I did 10. 10 was great. All right, next day, maybe 15. So I did 15. Thought I was gonna die. And okay, that's too much. Let's back it up to 10. And I stayed at 10 for a while. Now, I would love to say at this point that's what I kept doing. I just take a step and things would go great till I got automatic, and then I do the next step, and then eventually I got back on the program completely and my weight started dropping like crazy. But that's not how it went. It was very herky-jerky. I would do great for a couple of days, and then I'd have a little oops moment. And then I'd do great and have another little oops moment. And I'd do great, and just kind of did like that. And I was a little frustrated by that, but I remembered relapse is a part of recovery. There's a reason why this is happening. And so I would stop and I'd think about, okay, why did that just happen? And I could see there was a pattern developing. And the number one reason why I would go off track is because I was tired. And again, think about what I've just gone through in the past year. There's a reason why I'm tired. And so I started paying attention to that and thought, okay, I can't allow myself to get that exhausted, because if I do, bad things are going to happen. But look for your patterns too. We all have a reason why we do the things that we do. And so even though now my weight loss is at a snail's pace, I know that eventually, if I keep doing what I know is right, that eventually my body is going to catch up. It's just a matter of time. So let's wrap this up. If you remember that relapse is part of recovery, don't be afraid of it. Take those times, learn from them, come up with a plan for the next time, because there's always a next time. And remember that today is not yesterday. It really is a new day with new circumstances and new opportunities to apply what you're learning from this so that you can become that healthier you. So that's it for me tonight. Thank you all for coming.